the On the Mic podcast, and as I just told him off air, it is a dream list, bucket list interview for me. Most of you know, obviously, before I moved over to MMA, I was a full-time NFL, NBA guy. Grew up in Chicago, so obviously it's a little weird, right? Because I grew up in Chicago, obviously around in '92, so the Jordan era. I was born into it, but I'm a Knicks fan, so hopefully he doesn't just hit leave meeting right now. But he's one of the very best in all of broadcasting. He is just someone who sent out a tweet for broadcasters like myself to get in contact with, to help out. And here he is on the show, the one and only Chuck Swirsky, play-by-play man for the Chicago Bulls. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much. And is it okay for you to talk to a Knicks fan on a Saturday morning?
Sure.
Is that okay?
I'm all good.
Well, obviously, I want to talk some basketball with you, but I really wanted to jump off because for me, this is a big deal. I truthfully moved to MMA because I felt after going through media school, after having a little bit of time in radio here in Chicago, that unless you knew more people than I thought I knew a lot of people, that it was so hard to break through in the industry covering the big professional sports, basketball, football, baseball. Your tweet is something that in the MMA world and combat sports world, it's so close knit. Everyone knows everybody, that it's a little easier to talk to your bigger name journalists. In the other pro sports, it's not as easy. It's hard to get in contact with a guy like you, although you're very welcoming to it. What led you to put that out there that makes you want to help younger or just aspiring broadcasters as a whole?
Well, you know what, Mike, that's a good question. And here's the bottom line, that I've walked in your shoes. I've walked in shoes of women and men who have been knocking on the door, and not necessarily say, I want a job, but I just want somebody to listen to my questions. I need advice. I need direction. I need wisdom. And like when I was really young and even moving through my formative years as an adult, it was hard. Sometimes people would say, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. Hey, listen, you know what? Give me your number. Give me your, in those days, we didn't have email, but write me a note. I'll get back to you. Well, guess what, Mike? They didn't get back to me. So I made a promise to myself that from that moment on, and listen, we all get rejected in life. I get rejected in my position, but you got to persevere. And that's why, whether it's positivity, purpose, passion, perseverance, that I made a commitment to myself that if I ever was placed at a point in my career that I could have influence and just be somebody there for people, I looked in the mirror and said, I'm going to do it. And so, and here I am.
Here you are, and you've been many places in your career, and obviously landed you in the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame. I feel the timing is somewhat ironic as we talk about, people like yourself and others that would open their doors or their ears for other broadcasters. And this week, and honestly, 24 hours ago, yesterday in Chicago, David Kaplan signed off of NBC Sports Chicago for the final time. Cap has been a huge mentor for me. I graced time with him at 87.7 The Game when that was a thing. And, that was at 22 years old. And I thought I had the world by the hands. I had everything there for me. And as you know, I don't have to tell you, as Cap knows, I mean, the carpet got swept from underneath our feet. And I was left, wondering what was next. Not for me, because I've found my niche, so to say. I'm not sure. I'll ask you about that next. But when you think you have it at a young age and then something happens, I know as a professional and a veteran, so many people will say, that's welcome to the media world. That's this business. Yes. What's the biggest message about not letting it throw you off the path? Because again, at 22, I thought I'm working with Jason McKee. I grew up watching the Bears. I'm 22. I don't have to go out. I don't have to party with anybody. This is my life. This is everything. And then yes, less than a year later, it's swept under, it's taken away from me. And I'm stuck struggling and searching and scrambling. So what is your message if you have early success and something happens?
Yep. Well, I would say this is that you understand that life is not a straight line, that there are going to be hiccups, there are going to be potholes, there are going to be moments in your life where you are challenged, and you've got to make a decision what direction you're going to go. And I call it a 24-hour rule. Just like a ball player, when he goes 0 for 4 at the plate and leaves men on base, or a guy misses the game-winning shot, or the hockey player who is either a goalie or who fans on a shot, I mean, it stays with you, but it can't stay with you long. It's almost like the mentality of a reliever, a closer, where you give up a home run and your team loses. And you have to take that long walk into the dugout and clubhouse and know in your heart, you've got 24 guys that are disappointed because you're disappointed. You should still be on the mound pitching, but you gave up a home run ball or a base hit in a walk-off. So when you are rejected or you have something that derails your dreams, your vision, your hope, you've got a very small window to say to yourself, okay, like, I'm in pain. I feel rejected. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm telling you right now, you got to get back on the horse, make calls, emails, connect, network. Just say, hey, here's what happened. I'm available. If you hear of anything, if you feel there is a comfort zone for me somewhere, like what you did, then what I say, you take it, because you got to get back in the stream, okay? And you got to start swimming. And the moment you do that and realize this is a part of our industry, it's not pleasant, it's hurtful, and there's a great deal of not only insecurities, but we're human beings, and none of us like to feel rejected. So my point is, get back, do what you want to do, and if it's MMA, if it's NFL, MLB, whatever, college, be the best you can be, and then live in the moment. And then if something happens where you hear of another gig and it interests you, at least you've got a resume and a portfolio of things where you can share with that prospective company.
With that, and I think you kind of answered it, but and I know there's so many examples. I'll use mine very quickly and then kind of broaden it to everybody else. Again, I grew up NFL, NBA, obviously a little MLB, but early on, I had a website at 17 years old. I thought, I was the future of the sports media world, and I found success early. And then through the Illinois Media School, covering the NFL, covering the NBA, just as a freelancer. But as you know, being a freelancer, especially as times were changing with social media and everything, it wasn't easy. I mean, it was maybe easier with social media, but for me, it wasn't. So when I lost my Chicago radio gig, I was told by someone in Philly, not mentioning names or companies, that I had an opportunity. So I packed up. I guess I don't need you to vouch for this because I could say it for myself. I packed up and moved without a written contract. I didn't sign anything. I just packed up and moved. And I just said, I'm going to get that job. I was told I'm going to get that job. I'm going to get that job. So I moved outside of Philly. I got there and I got ghosted. And so while I was sitting there thinking I had my future of sports radio, I didn't have anything. And one night I'm coming back home to Chicago, and I have the TV on while I'm packing. And I just came across a a replayed Conor McGregor fight. This is back in about 2016, 2015. I go, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm addicted to his personality. I'm addicted to the sport. I haven't missed a UFC event since. I've since moved my podcast to simply cover the MMA and world and the UFC and Bellator and all of those companies. But I still have this burning passion. I go to my uncle's house nearly every weekend, and he knows me as the football and basketball guy. He knows me as the fight guy now, but we had so many passionate talks every weekend about the NFL and NBA, and he tells me every weekend, dude, get back to covering that stuff. You know, you have such a small circle in combat sports. I guess my question to you, and whether it's somebody's covering hockey, now they're covering baseball, whatever the case may be, how can broadcasters find that balance of, this is my new focus, this is my new passion, but I still have this old passion that I don't want to forget about, and it might be even popular than what I'm doing right now?
Well, I mean, again, it's where you're at in your life, how you're putting food on the table, and allowing things to happen organically. So there is no book, there's no journal, there is no, some type of element where it's a cookie cutter industry. It's not. And everyone's journey is different. If you lined up 100 newscasters, weather people, meteorologists, sportscasters, every one of us have a different story to tell. Like you, moving outside of Philadelphia, and then all of a sudden, where am I going with this?
Yeah.
And so, the destination is there at different layers of our life. It's the journey that sometimes is very fruitful, sometimes it's a struggle. And you'll look back on these days, and trust me, you're young, but one day you will look back on these days and you'll be thankful you went through it.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate you saying that. But obviously, as a basketball fan and someone who still kind of covers the sport, obviously a second part of having you on, I have to talk some hoops with you. Huge win for the Bulls last night over Detroit. Zach LaVine, 43 points. But with all that is being done in the Bulls organization right now, great year last year, kind of stumbling this year. First and foremost, before we talk about the team, I want to ask you about this generation of the NBA, right? Because I use going, and I never talked about my uncle so much on a podcast, but I use going to my uncle's house on Christmas Day this year as a perfect example. We had a little NFL that we went back and forth on, but we had, as you know, Christmas basketball it's the prime time. It's the headline. And I look at, you have a guy you started your day with Joel Embiid. You ended your Christmas day with Nikola Jokic and a triple-double for the ages, only to be followed a few days by Luka Doncic's crazy 60-point, 20-rebound triple-double. Then you still have Giannis. We're in a time where, as everyone knew the basketball world since I was born, it was Michael Jordan and everybody else, I guess Shaq, and then Kobe Bryant and everybody else, then LeBron James and everybody else. Now we're at a point where every night there's a budding superstar taking the headline, taking the spotlight. And it's kind of a take every single day. I don't want to ask if we're in the best time ever for NBA, but what would you say as someone who's covered the sport for so long about the level of superstars we have today?
Well, number one, I think the advent of the international player is huge in this league. I mean, all you have to do is look at the MVPs of the last two players who have won multiple MVPs in Giannis and Nikola Jokic, okay? That speaks volumes. I mean, Joel Embiid, even though he went to Kansas, he's from Cameroon, okay? Doncic, Slovenia. So, I mean, we're looking at a situation now with international players coming in, and they are NBA ready. They've been professionals since they were 15, 16. They have played at the national scope as far as global FIBA. And I mean, the United States is still, without any question, with NCAA ball, AAU, high school, these kids at a very tender age, 9, 10, 11, when you see a kid that has skill, height, I mean, they're going in to probably a phase of their life where they're already receiving really good coaching because they have been identified as somebody who has the potential of going to a very, very high level, whether it's the NBA, one thing, whether it is college ball, high Division I, college, that's another. Here's the situation. College, high school, AAU, these coaches now are basing what they're seeing and how they're teaching and coaching on the three-point shot. In my generation, it was three-point shot. That's the old ABA. Come on, that's a gimmick. No longer a gimmick. We're seeing analytics come into play that if you've got a player driving to the rim with an open lane to the basket, he is passing up that shot that won't be contested. And if it is contested, it's a shade from a player that's moving to the player. But if that player with the ball is athletic, he can probably either do a Euro step, a hop, an up and under move to the rim. But that player is now electing to throw the ball either to the corner for a short three or a jump pass, a skip pass to a wing for a three. The game is changing. And so what you're going to see, more and more players who are being coached at that level that have an opportunity for an NBA career. You've got to be able to shoot the ball unless you are so skilled at one element of your game. If you can rebound and block shots, you're going to find a home at the NBA level if your skill set and athleticism will take you there. So, that's one thing. But I also believe, I do believe that we're going to get back to the day where kids at 18 can come out of high school, enter the NBA. I think that's going to happen very soon. Just my opinion. Because of that, teams get these kids and they've been coached, but they really haven't been coached.
Right.
And there are a lot of mistakes being made. I get it. They're young. They are trying to, find their niche in the NBA. And for some, it takes them a few years. For some, it takes them a year and a half, 2 years. For some, it never happens. And they just are there because they're athletic and, they can take up a roster spot. That's a long-winded answer, but that's where I'm coming from.
No, and I think too that I do want to ask about the Bulls and just where the NBA currently sits. But with that, I think we're looking at right now, and I don't have to tell you, the chatter outside of what's currently happening in the league is what's coming to the league, and I'm gonna butcher his name because I'm terrible at it. I'm not as great as you, but Victor Wembanyama in France. I mean, we're talking about a 7'1" guy who has handles, I guess, like Luka. I mean, He's got a point guard handle, and he shoots like no one's ever seen at that height.
Right.
You've talked a lot about potential and opportunity and growth, and it's all fine and dandy. I mean, people were saying if he was in the same draft as LeBron may go too. And I love the potential of Victor, but I want to kind of maybe have you speak to proceeding on the side of caution because every number one pick is supposed to be great. Yep. And this may be a generational talent. And I can't wait to see him in the league. But just like Giannis had to go through a physical transformation to become who he is, this kid shows so much potential, but we can't crown him just yet. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Well, here's the story. And every player is different. I get it. Okay. So I want to make sure and understand to people, this is not, as I mentioned earlier to you, Mike, this is not a cookie cutter. Every player is different. LeBron was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, 16, 17 years old. We knew about LeBron James. We knew about Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in high school. Okay. We knew a little about Irvin Magic Johnson in Lansing, Michigan, maybe in high school. But for the most part, because he is an international player, and we're talking about Victor Wembanyama, you're going to see, and the team that drafts him is going to have a team in place for him. I'm talking about, and every team has nutritionists, strength and conditioning, athletic trainers. They've got sports psychologists. Every team has those in the league. The availability for each NBA team, and probably every pro team now, is off the charts. Unbelievable resources. This kid is going to need all of that and more, because let me tell you what, the 450 players right now in the NBA, they know who that kid is. And that kid is going to come into the league. And when a team plays the team that gets the draft rights to Victor, they're going to challenge him right away, like right away. Defense, offense, physicality, conditioning. And Victor, I'm sure, has pretty good self-esteem, and he appears to be a great kid. And he's going to be tested, and he knows he's going to be tested. And I am hoping that he is everything and then some as a player. But we have used, as you mentioned, we got to be really, really patient, because he's still very, very raw, very young, very like, I'm coming into this. This is my dream.
Right.
And wow. You know what? I've got a ball game tonight, and we play Cleveland. So if you have one more question, and then I got to get back to my notes.
Absolutely. I'll just say this, or ask this: where are the Bulls' biggest faults right now? Obviously, Lonzo Ball being out hurts. I know, like I said, to open this, such a great year last year. You would think, kind of bringing everyone back, there'd be more consistency, this similar success. I know Lonzo Ball being out hurts, but where are the Bulls' biggest faults and struggles right now?
Well, number one, they've been so inconsistent. Look at the Bulls' record. They're 5-1 against the top three teams in the East, and they're 2-0 at Miami. The Bulls haven't even played the Heat at home. And so you look at that and you say to yourself, wow. And then all of a sudden, you stumble against Orlando, you lose to Houston, and you say to yourself, I don't get it. Well, that's because they're inconsistent. Now, the loss of Lonzo is huge. I don't know when he's coming back. We got an update from Billy Donovan on Friday that, incrementally there is improvement, but not to the point where he can, run and dart and get hit and play physical basketball and scrimmage. So again, that it is what it is. You got to be patient. But I do think that the point guard position with this club, they've got a collective unit that I think the Bulls can get by with. And each player is kind of different in what they bring to the table. So I'm looking for a consistency the second half of the season.
Well, Chuck Swirsky, thank you so much. Can't wait to hear you on tonight's broadcast and all Bulls broadcasts on the radio. Sir, I really want to thank you more for the broadcasting conversation. The basketball conversation is great. And obviously, anyone who listens to you, I learned basketball through your voice growing up in the city of Chicago. And I thank you so much for that. This is a dream come true. Hopefully it won't be the one and only time I get a chance to talk to you, but I think this conversation will not just help me, but so many other broadcasters, young and aspiring, old, no matter what they are. And here's to a good second half of this basketball season. And I can't say thank you enough for your time.
Well, my pleasure. I want to wish you and your family a happy 2023. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate yourself and others that are in the grind. I'm in the grind. I love the grind. And, we have a game 24 hours later, and I'm pumped up to call Bulls Cavs. And so this is love. This is joy. This is exhilaration. This is what I wanted to do as a little boy. So for men and women out there, I repeat, do not give up your dreams and your goals, and surround yourself with loving, caring, supportive people. We have too much negativity in the world. I want people to understand that you need encouragement, you need constructive criticism, and you need people around you who are going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear, because in a sense, everything starts and comes from the heart. Everything is about the heart. So happy New Year to you and everyone, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.